So, hello guys. Welcome back to Handstand Factory Handstandcast with myself, Mikael Christiansen, and Emmet Lewis.
Hello.
Hello. And yeah, what's our topic today, Emmet?
Our topic today is a fun topic. We're going to take a little break from the technical discussion. We're going to have a bit of a chat about the circus hobo life.
Yes.
What's that like? How do we actually live? How do we do that?
Yeah, and circus school and performing life and all
Circus school.
those things that people might be interested in hearing about.
So where do we start? It's one of these things. How do we start with, what was the strangest gig you ever did?
Strangest gig? Yeah, wait. I actually need to think a little bit about that. I've done a couple of, I haven't done anything like really depraved, but I've done a couple of like weird ones.
I've got a very depraved one I'm going to tell.
I've had like some body paint. Remember once, like there's the first thing that strikes me. Oh my fucking God, that one. Jesus Christ. It's pretty rough. So I was in circus school, and me and a friend of mine, Isak Arvidsson, you can find him on Instagram, Balancing Isaac is his name, with a K. Regardless, so me and him, we got asked to do a gig for, it's done by this company called Circus, which is a Swedish larger company. They had
very well known if you're in circus world.
Yeah, they basically had an event, and that event was for some German massive insurance company, like one that's for like very rich people.
You got like, you're hitting the double whammy of like depravity there.
Yeah.
Insurance company and German.
And German, exactly. It was pretty bad. So they had hired the State House in Stockholm. Which is like, it's massive. It's enormous. They did hire the entire thing, and it was like this kind of party where they were going to, they were going to announce who got like the big bonuses and all that crap.
Yeah.
So inside of the building, they had made this like very romantic idea of the Scandinavian forest and the nature and stuff. So they had cut down tons of trees and put them inside there.
Very environmentally friendly.
And
There's
then
loads of trees in Scandinavia.
they had also put these little trays full of moss next to each chair, so they could kind of touch it and feel as if they were in the forest. And the theme of the entire party was the five senses. So in between each act and each kind of part that happened in the show, there were these video clips of a lady walking in the forest, and then kind of in German they would have some sort of poetic text about her, like for example vision, and then you would see like everything was in black and white except her eyes that were blue, and then she would see something, and then it was about like her seeing things, and then it was about
concept parties that.
Yeah, it was super duper cringe. It was so bad, and it was about smell. And then like they were supposed to smell the pine trees, and people walked on stilts and all kind of crap. But me and my friend Isaac, we were going to do handstand and hand to hand there, so I based him, and we were supposed to be forest nymphs. So we were dressed up in this. It was dreadful. I have the pictures. It was horrendous. So we had these camo tights that were like super tiny. We had to wear two layers of the same tights to not be see-through.
Should have just worn one pair. It's obviously not that brave enough. If
we were shirtless with body paint. Had this like massive, like kind of fiery thing across the chest, and then loads of glitter in the face. And they had glued these feathers onto our eyebrows that stuck out like 20 centimeters on each side. Like the guy, legitimately though, the guy who did the makeup, he's a super boss. He's like very known in Sweden for doing a lot of shit like that. Yeah. He's really good. But we looked fucking disgraceful. It was ridiculous. And then we were supposed to do this handstand act, and we were supposed to be the sunrise. So a couple of these.
What sense is that?
I don't really remember what sense we were, but like we were sunrise,
senseless.
And these couple of Swedish ladies were singing at the same time. They had this very high pitched voice that's kind of relates to. I'm not sure how real it is, but like this voice that they apparently. Back in the days that like the young ladies would sing to get the sheep to come in the mountains and stuff. Yeah. Very high-pitched voice. Anyway, they were singing, and we did some shitty handstands, and then we finished with some hand-to-hand. It was pretty damn dreadful. Then I went to Helsinki the day after to teach, and then like at the end of the workshop, they just asked me like, "Yeah, it was a great workshop, but why is your face full of glitter?" And I was like, dark side of show business.
The dark side.
It wasn't that bad, but
yeah.
Fire yours.
My one's a good one. I just wonder how much detail I can give on this one. So it was one of these gigs. I was living in London at the time, and I got a call like 7 o'clock going, "Are you available for a gig in 2 hours?" I was like, yeah, I had nothing on. I was like, yeah, fine, let's go. And it was like some agent who I'd never heard of, and just going things. I was like, okay, what's going on? I get there and I found out it is the Brit Awards were on, and it was an after party hosted by Lindsay Lohan.
Oh my god!
For the Brit Awards. Now, this would have been when Lindsay Lohan was at her peak, whatever was going on, personal issues, drug issues, whatever. But the backstory was that what went around was that New York Fashion Week was going on, and she was just didn't receive any invitations, was known as a brand wrecker. So she wasn't welcome at Fashion Week in New York. So she came over and hosted a Save the Rainforest themed party in London after the Brit Awards. Now, it was done short notice. No one would have been interested in going to it who was invited to the Brit Awards. She wasn't actually invited to the Brit Awards as well. She just pretended like she was, and she hung out till late in the evening. So you're kind of there with we had to do basically. We got there and we're like, okay, it's clear that whoever the agent or whoever was the event organizer was just some fucking chancer. Chancer is someone who just makes it up as they go along. So fine, that's not too much of a problem. We deal with these kind of people. But he just kind of, my producer's thinking like, do you want us to get sued? It's okay. I had no contract with this and there's no proof this thing ever actually happened. And they didn't pay me for it. So, if, that's another story. I'll tell that at the end. But anyway, so Lindsay, if you're tuning in, I'd like my fee, please. Anyway, so this Brit Award party was going, so they kind of invited like Z-list London celebrities to this to kind of show up. Everyone shows up. If you've ever done any of these celebrity parties or the VIP parties, they always have a really good gift bag at the end of the night. So it's great when you're performing because you get this gift bag, so okay, cool, I'll do that. And if you're kind of a Z-list celebrity who is kind of on the up as well, about these gift bags, so they're worth turning up for anyway. That's it. It's kind of your agreed fee is your gift bag.
Okay.
I'll talk about that in a second. But anyway, so we turned up and they're like, okay, what do you want us to do? And your man's like, circus. And I was like, that's very fucking vague. What do you want us to do? And he's like, circus. I was like, okay. So it's one of these. So me and a friend who was doing the gig with me, there's about 6 of us at it who we kind of knew from the London scene. And so we were just like, okay, we brought a fire. We've had a bit of everything. So we brought some fire stuff. So we're like, okay, we've done some fire as the people were coming in from arriving and doing the photo ops. Done that. And then we're like, okay, well, what else do you want us to do? And like, they'd agreed a pretty good fee. So we're like, okay, about 4 hours of kind of walkabout stuff. So we done the fire stuff at the show, done some photos in costume, that kind of thing. Then we got to go upstairs to the party. That's where things began to go strange. Now, I'm going to have to diverge into some non-PC terms because I'm not certain of the actual terms here. But they had hired a troupe of, I don't want to sound offensive, but short people, dwarfs. I'm not trying to offend anyone here. I literally just don't know how we would say this. But they dressed them up in gimp costumes.
No way.
Latex, leather, bondage masks, everything. And then there was like the whole gimmick of these people. They were kind of running around the night. But then they put them on stage as strippers or kind of doing a pseudo kind of fetish show.
Jesus.
But then there was a load of models there who were kind of... some of them would probably be a who's who, very famous now, but we won't admit who. But their whole thing was they would put their legs up on the stage, and then these shorter people would hump their legs very vigorously. So this went on. So like we were doing our walkabout, like kind of if you're doing our walkabout performances, it's when you're kind of in costume, you might have some props, and you're walking around the crowd and kind of singling out groups and
in the mingling days,
just mingling, doing some things, just providing some ambience. So we were kind of there. So the weird thing about this party was because it was a charity event for Rainforest, but everyone was invited for free just to make a show of Lindsay Lohan. They had to try and raise money somehow. So the deal was there was a free bar, which is excellent. Free bar, free food. But you had to pay $2,000 to sit down.
Oh, wow.
So if you wanted to sit down, there was loads of chairs, there was loads of booths, but it was $2,000 if you were sitting down, and you had to have a special band. So it was kind of... No one was sitting down because everyone was Z-list London celebrity from about 12 years ago. Just like, with kind of a crowd show going on. So that went on for a few hours. some minor members of the royal family, I don't know how connected, were there embarrassing themselves. I'd wish I'd taken photos. That was the other thing, you were banned from taking photos, and there was bouncers fucking on it if your camera came out, or if so going back to the almost pre-camera phone days, it was like bam, you would have had 3 bouncers on you immediately. So that kind of thing. So then anyway, the host turned up. Clearly the host turned up at about 3 a.m. Just to put it in context. So we stuck around for the party and we were just getting free drinks. So turned up at 3 a.m. Auctioned off some stuff. I think they're handing out iPhones, whichever generation of iPhone was like for a charity auction. But then no one was bidding on the auctions. Everyone was cheap. So then instead of getting like whatever they would have cost, like 500, 600, 700 quid back then, I think they sold for about 150 quid. So a bit of embarrassment, but you got a cheap phone. Someone won a date off Lindsay, which I'm sure I never got paid. And then I left with my goodie bag, which was actually pretty good. Just got a bottle of designer vodka, some cereal, some headache tablets, some like cosmetics to try out. Yeah, I don't know, headache tablets. So
Probably
got
good
that.
for a day after.
Then so then whichever the company was that organized it, when I sent them the invoice, suddenly they were declared bankrupt about 2 weeks after the event, which is a semi-common practice in London, where you'll have event companies. They set up for the events, they run the event, and then they declare themselves bankrupt before the invoices come in, and just shaft everyone.
They disappear.
Yeah, so it's happened a lot in London actually. And then the same person would have like Epic Party 2001. Oh wait, Epic Party 2002 Limited has now been set up. So yeah, there you go.
It's probably like a business practice at this point for certain people. But yeah, I mean, there's loads of shady events like that. I really haven't done that much event work. And I mean, Sweden, Stockholm is not particularly crazy in terms of these things. I mean, I've heard loads worse stories than I have experienced, like that one. But so yeah,
I think we've kind of had an interesting, almost parallel circus world career, whereas most of my circus stuff was events and corporate functions and this kind of thing, whereas most of your stuff would have been shows and
I've been mainly like in larger productions, or like at least like for the most amount of my career. That was like one thing that I thought of, just maybe some of the people listening would be interested in, is just like, how did we end up in this thing? Like what happened? Like,
how did you fail so badly at life?
Yeah, it's for me, it's like in so where did it really start? It's like, I mean, my first handstand ever, I think I was around 17, possibly 18. So I used to be like a pretty out of shape kid. I was kind of the kid in class I was the out of shape guy who I was good at magic cards and like video games.
Good at magic cards, karate.
Yeah, I mean, I knew all of the magic cards. Like I was the encyclopedia that people would ask about, like combinations and all that. Like I basically had like a massive registry in my head for that shit.
Blue eyes, white dragon.
Yeah, I had like, and I had a black weenie with just that. Like at school, it was like I had a mono black deck that crushed everyone, and my friend had a mono white one that crushed everyone, and everyone won 50-50 against each other, and it was fucking boring because the decks were just like
Black
degenerate.
Lotus? Black Lotus?
No, actually, but my friend did have a Black Lotus back then. He should have saved it because he just got like 300 euros for it. But by now it's like
probably
worth loads more.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I started doing karate at around like 15. I wasn't like, it of course helped me develop some coordination and so on, but started breakdancing at around 18-ish. That's when I started to actually practice it a bit. And I just figured, it's probably good to try to stand on your hands if you're gonna do this. That was kind of my logic. So I watched Freestyle Session 3. It's a jam from the States. Freestyle Session is still running, but it was Freestyle Session 3, and it kind of seems like, or it was a legendary jam. Like there was this super crew there with like some people from Europe and some from the States that were just like, everyone knew they were going to crush it because they were just sick. But this crew from I think they're from California, Soul Control, they gave them some real hard challenge. And I just remember seeing that VHS, and I just saw Pablo Flores, who's the first guy who did 2 air flares. I just saw him do flares, and I just thought, holy fucking shit, I need to do that.
Yeah.
I was just like a fat kid from Røros in Norway, up in the mountains, but I was like, I need to do that. If I can't do that, nothing matters. So I just started to play around, and like everyone, I started to mess around with windmill. Of course, windmill was like the big first thing that I wanted to learn. I did the classic pause play on the VHS, just clicking the buttons to see how they did 6 steps and all that stuff. And yeah, I just started to try to stand my hands because I just thought that it made sense. So I moved to Oslo, did breakdancing there I was hanging out with the B-boys there for several years, and I was like kind of into the breaking scene quite a lot, but it never really was my thing in terms of battling and all that. I was a bit too insecure, a little bit too kind of, never dare to kind of go for it. So I never went for all the battles and stuff, but I got pretty good at like the things that I like to do, and I did a lot of handstand moves. So I learned air baby. I learned what's called stacks, which are these moves or freeze framing, where you go up and down on the elbows and baby freeze and use kind of all these kind of motions. And then in 2004, Battle of the Year, I was there in Braunschweig in Germany. The Gambler crew from Korea was there, and B-Boy Darkness, he was this jacked motherfucker. He did a 1-arm on stage, and I was like, holy shit, what is this? Because I could do 1-arm hand hops at that point, but I'd never seen anyone stand on 1 arm, and he did that, and I was like, damn, this is cool. So I kind of just started messing around a little bit with it, maybe around like 2006, something like that. But it was completely casual. I would just kick up to like a handstand and on fingertips on the other hand, like on one hand and the hand on the other, and just wobble around for a few seconds. I never really practiced it. I didn't really care, but I just thought it was kind of a cool thing to mess around with. And then I met a circus performer from the States a few years later, 2008, that I did a class with in Stockholm. And I just found this to be like, okay, damn, this is fun. This like, because I had kind of gotten a little bit disillusioned from breaking, that like found that, okay, it was maybe not really my thing. I was finished with my my bachelor in anthropology, and I was like, fuck, what do I do with my life, kind of. And then I met him, and I saw, okay, I'm good at this. This is what I'm already doing, like being on my hands, and here's a career that I can do with it. So I trained with him because he ended up, Corey Tabino is his name. He ended up staying in Oslo for about 6 months, and he trained me and a couple of others. He left, and I trained a bit more, and then I just like started to look for circus schools, because back then I didn't really know that Europe has loads of circus schools.
Yeah.
And so I just knew of ENC in Montreal, and I heard of this one called the DOC at the University of Dance and Circus in Stockholm. It was known as just the University of Dance back then, but they had the circus education. I was like, okay.
Was it still with Circus Circus? Because they used to do it.
No, it was after that, because Circus, they created their kind of. It was a private education back then. I think they started in '97, if I'm not wrong. But they was kind of smaller, and then in 2005, the university took over and kind of absorbed the education into the dance university. So it was that at that point, and I had heard that the school wasn't that great, which obviously was from some people speaking out of their ass, because the school is pretty damn great. And I applied because I heard it sucked. So I was like, I probably can get in. And then I come to the audition, and I'm just like, holy shit, what am I doing here? These people are crazy. And somehow I got in.
Mikael doing his breakdancing, going, holy shit, that guy's crazy.
Yeah, but I remember very distinctly, I was there in the auditions, really nervous, and I'm in the studio warming up, and I turn around, and one guy's doing a 1-arm, and I'm like, so there are more people applying here with hand balancing that can 1-arm already. So I did have a pretty solid 1-arm. It went very fast for me to develop like the 1-arms. Just like a couple of weeks, and I could more or less 1-arm it, because I had such a good understanding of being upside down. And I started training with Corey.
All that alignment work.
Yeah, but like it was actually like, cause like I had the shoulders, so like for me, I just needed to like, okay, when he said push your shoulder, okay, do this, do that, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, he means this, and I could just apply it. So, on the audition there, like I asked the guys like, oh, yeah, so you apply with hand balancing too? He's like, no, I'm a bass. I'm like, oh, okay. And then I look to the side, and I see a guy named Kim Jiron, who ended up being my training partner for 3 years, doing a 1-arm, and he has like fucking beautiful splits and really good technique. My technique at that point was a little bit janky. It was good, but it wasn't like, I didn't have the look of someone who had been in circus school. I was like, oh shit. So am I gonna like compare to these guys? This is like, and all of them, of course, had like really great tumbling and acro, and they had done loads of theater. Like some of them were absolutely hilarious on stage, and I had zero experience. I'd never done a theater class in my life. I was terrified. It was horrible. But somehow I managed to make it through. And yeah, there was 3 years under Alexander Gavrilov in the University of Dance and Circus in Stockholm.
Yeah, cool.
How about you?
How did I start?
A long rant.
It's kind of one of those things, like, so main sort of sport, I don't like, we had kind of gymnastics in school and stuff like that as our kind of physical education thing. But I was doing a lot of extreme rollerblading as a kid.
I didn't know that.
That was when, like, yeah,
That's
that was so like back by the standard of the day, which was kind of like your equivalent of the breakdancing VHS. You know, but that was pretty good. It's like could do rails, doing the stuff that I look at now is just fucking stupid, but crazy, like jumping down like 20, 15 flights of steps on your blades, like grab my blades, man. For some reason, grabbing your rollerblades like while you jump is mandatory for cool points. I don't know why, but it is. So I was doing that for quite a long time, and then I had a very bad medical advice. I was having issues with my knees. Well, about 16, and the doctor was like, "You have to quit, or you won't be able to walk." Now, all I would have actually need to do if I went to physio, he would have just said, "Oh shit, your quads are really tight because you skate bent over." So that kind of took me out for a couple of years. But it was kind of at the same time you're doing exams in Ireland, so I was like, okay, backed off. I was like, okay, fine, whatever. Started partying a bit more. And then when I was in my last year in secondary school over here doing what we call the Leaving Cert, which is the exam where you finish. So after that, I started going to a lot of outdoor parties and outdoor raves and the electronic dance scene and this kind of thing. And there was just when like fire poi, if you're familiar with these, were like new. So me and my friend were like, holy shit, that's awesome. We could be the kings of the rave if we'd done that. So then people would like us.
Emmet Lewis, king of the rave.
King of the rave. So right there, and then it actually turned out like just because you had the fire poi, you weren't king of the rave after you'd finished doing the thing. But so we were doing that, me and my friend Rory, who went to be with Circus School eventually. So we started doing that, and I got into a university over here in Dublin called Trinity College to study maths and physics, theoretical physics. Was it theoretical physics? I can't remember what they called the course. So I was doing that, and honestly, I'm good at maths. I'm naturally pretty good at it. It comes to me quite easy. It was fucking boring. I was just like, I can't do this. I was just like, I don't want to do this. I was like, okay, well, what's my plan? I tried to change course onto chemistry and physics. Done that a bit, and I was just like, honestly, at the time, I was just like in there to rob lab equipment to try and make drugs for myself. So. Let's just be honest here. It's like, it's okay. The producer is just going completely red in the face. Like, you can't say that on air. It's like, it's okay. We're past the statute of limitations now, so it's fine. I stole some beakers. I made a few bongs out of them. It happens. So, but in the university, they had a juggling club, a juggling and circus society, which is still running, which I'm forever grateful for having running. So there's a couple of things happened over the period of that time that there was no one really performing professionally in Ireland at the time in juggling. There'd just been one cohort from the Belfast Circus School where basically everyone came out of. There's people like Ken and Tina from Tumble Circus. What you call Cormac and Things Troop.
Oh yeah, those guys, yeah.
Which ones?
The ones in Cork, yeah?
Yeah. Oh, damn it, I forget their name. Someone can shout it to me. The two funny guys. Anyway, yeah, so they came out of it. So, Lords of Strut, they came out of there. Right. So, like, basically, it was like they ran this one-off course. So it was just finished. And so it was kind of very early days in the Irish circus scene, I think. So, but nightclubs would get in touch with the Juggling Society at Trinity going, we need performers for our shows. So we got in with a couple of the promoters here who were slightly less sleazy than the one in London. Me and my friend Rory, we do a lot of gigs in nightclubs that are now defunct in Ireland, which are now converted to offices. If I think about what we were doing, like, it was fucking terrible. Like, we should not have been allowed on stage. You know, it's just whatever. But it was fine. Everyone had a good time. We didn't burn the place down. We nearly did a few times. once again, our producer's cringing. But we got out. So, but then I was like, hold on, I can, like at the time I was, say this, we've been going back to 2002, I was charging 250 quid a night. And I was like, hold on, I can get this much a night. I was like, okay, maybe I just need to take it a bit more professional. And then I met Cormac from Lord of the Strut, and I was chatting to him about being a professional. He was like, oh, you have to go to circus school, you have to thing. So I was like, okay, I need a plan. So I deliberately failed my first year in Trinity. Sorry, Joan, that's Joan's my mother, if she's listening to this. So I could go like, I can't go back to university because I failed. Ha ha ha. Emmet failed maths, you fools. So then I was like, okay, I'm free floating. Okay, fuck it, I'll save the money up. So I saved the money up myself and got a bit of a student loan to go to Circus Media in Bristol, which was a 1-year prep course at the time. It wasn't a degree like it is. And there I was like, okay, we do juggling, acrobatics. So I specialize in acrobatics and aerial, actually. So people don't know, my secret is that I can actually base aerial. So specialize in doubles trapeze and basing doubles and hand-to-hand and these kind of things. A lot of what would have been like acro balance, not acro yoga. But now it's acro yoga because people like to call things yoga. So I've done that for 1 year. And then after that I went on to Circus Space in London, which is now National Centre of Circus Arts. And just to segue back to the Circus Media, it's kind of, they had a teacher there, and to this day, it's one of my bigger regrets in the performance world of a guy called Bim Mason, and he taught physical theatre. And at the time, I thought he was an asshole. Sorry, Bim, I really disliked him. Maybe I'd still dislike him on his personality, but I learned all my performance skills. He really pushed you as a performer. He really just did not let up. And that's where most of my performance, people, if you are familiar, come to my workshops or anything, people say, oh, you have a certain presence. I developed it because of Bim. And then I only realized how good a teacher he was when I had other physical theatre teachers who were also there. They're good, don't get me wrong. I wouldn't have any theatre teacher I think was bad. I could say something about other teachers. But Bim in comparison was just something else. And everyone who like stuck with Bim, like whatever, even if they were not a natural performer, which a lot of people who go to circus school aren't, they prefer to hide behind the discipline, and they want to be on stage, they want to show the discipline, but they hide behind it. He just had a way of getting it out, so I kind of regret that I didn't take full advantage of Bim at the time. So if you ever get a chance with Bim Mason, check him out, he's awesome. He hated me as well. It was a mutual hate. He was like, the reference I got from him to go to Circus Space read like, Emmet attended his classes, he's good at acrobatics but nothing else.
Burn.
literally that. It was like one
rough.
line. Emmet attended his classes, he's good at acrobatics and nothing else. Thanks, Bim. So I got Mike, who was the aerial teacher, I'm not sure I'd count him as a good aerial teacher, but he's definitely a force of nature, and he's good at the time, very good for my level, possibly a bit old school, but Mike Wright, if any of the circus people are listening, will probably come across Mike Wright. He's a legend. He's insane. Like, he was 50, 60 something, doing cloud swing with no harness on. He'd go up, do all the rigging in the school without the harness on. The actual rigger would be like, one, you shouldn't have been up there. The rigger was meant to do the rigging. And two, you're meant to be wearing a harness, and he'd just be up there like walking across scaffold that was questionable by itself anyway, trying to like wrench some, a lot of weird things. I don't want Mike. He's a lovely guy, just a bit Mike. He'd broken his back like 3 times and was meant to be paralyzed, but each time he'd managed to get back from falling off aerial without safety mats or equipment. So, except one time we was fighting with a friend of his on a stairs on a set and fell down. But it was a fun fight. He said it wasn't like a serious one. It just he kissed his girlfriend or something, and it's like, hold on, that's a bit of a serious fight.
Oh Lord.
Anyway,
there's a lot of crazy people around.
There's a lot of weirdos in circus. So anyway, I went to Circus Space in London, done the 3-year degree there, then graduated. I don't know, did anything weird happen? Circus Space was very tame compared to Circus Media, I have to say. It was very... Circus Media still had that kind of crusty circus, punk kind of thing going on at the time. Whereas Circus Space was like, they had cleaners. The floors were clean. The mats would get cleaned. It was very organised, very nice.
Yeah, the Stockholm School was also pretty it is pretty very organised, a bit too organised for certain circus individuals, I think. But I think that's actually an interesting topic there in terms of this entire circus world and kind of the circus hobo life, in terms of you don't need to be a hobo, and it's entirely a how to say, a funny term, but like it is a very interesting world in terms of the people you run into. I feel, and I do think I think the most obvious reason for that is just like Circus has a or kind of always in one sense has had kind of this like sideshow, this kind of outsider sensation to it, which means that like I think it attracts a lot of people that either not necessarily are outsiders but like to do things differently in one sense. And then you always have this also. One thing that I've kind of identified quite a lot in terms of like especially the modern circus artists is that like circus has always had the tendency, I would say more than dance and theater and so on, to push limits in for the sake of pushing limits, simply because it's a part of its tradition. It's like the classic thing of the old school, the only man who can do the blah, 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 blah. Like that is kind of like, that is a sales pitch. That is what you try to kind of achieve with the entire circus thing.
I'd be very happy if Circus went back to that style. Like, as much as I like the contemporary stuff, I really appreciate that kind of, the aesthetic of like, here's one person and the only reason they can do this thing is because they spent 17 years doing it.
Yeah, there's something.
And it's just like, it's never been done before. It'll never be done again.
Yeah.
And here's a guy holding a cannon in his teeth while he's doing a free headstand on a tightrope while spinning some plates on one hand. Yeah. And having an epic mustache as well.
Yeah. But I think like in the kind of the modern sense of things also, like I think that has kind of bled into the fact that like the performativity and kind of the because since like you say, like there are almost no one left doing those kind of things, like in terms of like those totally extreme things of like the old school circus families and so on. And of course it's really hard to do those things as well unless you grew up in a family that only were doing these things and your kind of sole purpose of your life is finding that own kind of mad crazy trick in
it's
your
always
family.
kind of like, it's the other interesting with the circus families, like these generational tricks that get harder as a generation go, because the kids, you see this a bit in performance waves and discipline waves, but like the kids are watching the dad do this trick and then the kid will do the same trick on a unicycle and then someone will set the unicycle on fire next time.
But it's I think it's cool like the way that has an impact on kind of the performativity, because since people are within a tradition where this is something, there's a value to this like limit pushing, and then when you can't necessarily do it with your tricks anymore, or regardless, maybe you do, but there's always kind of this push for trying to innovate within the context somehow. And I'm not saying that doesn't happen within other performance fields, because it does, but it's just I think circus has it's prominent kind of value to be pushing on that, and I think it's really interesting that like since I started circus over 10 years ago, like I've seen like more and more push, at least in Europe, from like artists wanting to create their own works. And kind of when I came out of school, it was me and like 2 other people that didn't start their own company as they left school. So there was one guy, he did this solo show. There was one duet, one trio, one large crew of 6 people that were doing a thing. And one juggler that worked in a show with 2 other jugglers, and all these were kind of independent productions. So there were very few that went. I think I was the only one that went into like a larger production by another company like right away. Like there's kind of like this initiative of creating your own shit is kind of
it's got a lot of like, value.
And I think that's a really really interesting thing in kind of the development of the modern circus.
It's interesting. Like there is a big contrast from say I lived in San Francisco for a while, and in the circus center there, everyone was training basically to get picked up by a show in Vegas. That was the goal. There was very few people who were like, oh no, I want to make my own piece, I want to make my own art, I want to do shows, street, whatever it is. They just didn't have the same value. It was just like, no, I want to go. It was like, at the time it was like Vegas, Cirque, or Disneyland. One of the Disneylands was like people's goals. And like the people technically were fucking machines. And they had performance classes, and it wasn't like they had some good clowns come out of San Francisco, actually, from the Clown Conservatoire. Very good, very interesting people who are still on scene. But in terms of the rest of the scene was like, it was very geared towards make me a technical canvas, I'd call it. Where it's like I have the skills. I don't have a routine, but put a director in front of me and they'll tell me what to do and what my tricks to do and that kind of thing. So
yeah, I guess also like one thing in Europe in terms of that that is kind of a luxury that we do have here is a lot that the funding sector exists to, at least in Scandinavia, it's pretty strong. Like also France,
Ireland has a good one as well.
Yeah, so that like you can apply for money to actually create your works, and I've never like really been in the field that much in like neither Canada nor the States, but it seemed like it's more difficult to just like start your own thing and start touring it like it is here. You have all these kind of networks of Circus Next and this and that, like that kind of easily connects you. If you have a good product, you can get your stuff sold like kind of internationally.
Yeah, that's that kind of thing. I remember talking to someone about this in the States, and they don't have arts programs like we do. But what it is a lot of private companies, like even big companies like JP Morgan and stuff like this, but also smaller companies would have bursaries for artists in the locale. But to get in, it's kind of, the problem was like Circus in the States was still seen as kind of hippie, crusty dropouts.
Yeah.
So it just wasn't taken serious. Whereas dance, like this is where a lot of aerialists were rebranded as aerial dance. At the time, they're just like, oh yeah, I don't do circus. I don't do. So they were doing circus. They were doing circus shows, but they were calling themselves dance.
Yeah.
Aerial dance and
or aerial
air
theater
dance and aerial theater, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So it's kind of an interesting thing. It's just like, we'll do the exact same show, but we'll adopt the language to what people expect, and then or don't have a negative connotation to.
Yeah, this is interesting, and it reminds me of a discussion we always had in school with my class. Like we had pretty much of an anarchist class where everyone, like I said, they wanted to do their own things, and it was like we had a lot of people from France who were very experienced, and a lot of people who had like been a lot on stage and they had a lot of opinions. So there was a lot of kind of not conflict, but there was a lot of fruitful discussion back and forth, and like, okay, what are we doing and why do we want to do it, and kind of what is our art form. And one thing that we always would discuss was this, that circus shouldn't need to escape to theater or dance to validate itself.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that one. Yeah. It's one of these things that's I think circus is still in this battle of defining itself as a high art, which means it needs its own abstract body or choreographic knowledge, which is only getting developed. Whereas a lot of the choreographers I worked with in shows and other stuff, things, it would have been like coming from a dance or a theatre background, and they didn't understand circus. I remember having I got into that actually pretty heated argument during some devising period with one of the directors who was from a dance background, and her point was she couldn't understand why people would clap during a show in circus, but she's like, in a dance show people wait to the end, then they applause. And it kind of, it got, my comment was like, well, maybe dance just isn't impressive, which is probably not the most political thing to say, but like if you think about what happens in circus is there's tension and there's risk, and there's kind of a proposition of risk. I'm proposing I will pick up these balls, I put them all in the air, and I put them back into my hand. And I do, I propose something, I propose a risk, or I'm going to climb this rope, I'm going to wrap myself around, and then I'm going to drop under gravity, and I'm going to catch myself somehow. So it has this idea of like, it's building something, the audience goes in, something happens, and then the audience has this tension that has to actually physically emerge. So it's very that, whereas dance, I'm not saying, don't get me wrong, dance and theatre, it can be very intense, it can be very emotionally intense, it can be physically intense, but a lot of the time it doesn't have this, I don't know, pressure cooker what has to go off, and that's why people applaud.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's very hard, and it's very hard for people to get out of that in a circus show as well, because we were doing some shows to the test audience, everyone was clapping, the director was mad because, her artistic vision had no clapping. It was like, well, how can we stop the clapping? It's like, well, it came down like, do you want circus or do you want dance?
Yeah, you can't really.
If you want dance, we can't put we have to take the impressive tricks out.
Yeah, like I mean that's also one thing. Like you can't enforce the audience too much either. And I mean, people have very different traditions in different countries too. You go like with the shows I toured, when we played the same show in like France and we played it in the United States, completely different audience types of reactions. Like in France, there was much less often that you would get kind of the consequent clapping through the show. While, for example, I remember when I played with Seven Fingers. Seven Fingers is a Canadian circus company, for those of you who might not know of them. But I was touring with them in the States, and the audience there, I remember for the shows we played, they really wanted to insist on clapping. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying that I don't know if it's like that everywhere or always, but I just got that feeling there that like I was doing my hand balancing act, and usually people would clap after like the first couple of one arms, then they kind of would get settled into the rhythm of the performance, and then they would kind of stop, and then they would clap again at the end. While there they insisted on kind of giving me the feedback that I was doing something wrong. It felt almost like a formality, while in France, like seemed like also France is maybe the country in the world that has the most amount of contemporary circus touring.
That's
and like,
quite a good.
yeah, and there's just so many shows. There's so many theaters like around, even in tiny villages you've never heard of. Like a massive culture house that programs circus and dance and music.
Patrick Sebastian every Friday night. Is Patrick Sebastian Le Plus Grand Cabaret du Monde?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I guess that's still running. I remember that being like
it's still going for quite a long time. So,
but yeah, like, there is a big thing there at least, and like I think you kind of get an audience that is more used to seeing it, and then there's perhaps impressed by the tricks also. It's just that like they have a different way of giving the response to the performer essentially. But like I think at least what's been really interesting for me with this, the European tradition of circus that I've been involved in is exactly this creation of new things, and they become rather personal, because like it kind of doesn't matter technically, in the sense that like at one point you're going to reach more or less of a singularity where like people are very high level, then you'll have like these like outliers of some people that are just super duper ultra good, or people that can do very difficult things in training or on the video and so on. But like in an actual performance context, like the tricks are great. I mean, I think it's very interesting and I think it's a perhaps more than something else. It's about like it's a nice thing for having trained something for a long time to be able to use it. I think that's a great thing. But in the end, like it becomes like the shows I find the most interesting is when the people that are on stage are like, if you can't replace them automatically, like you can replace me and put in some other guy, but like it's kind of my personality needs to be there. Like for example, one of my friends, Erik Åberg, he's a juggler, you probably know him. No, sorry, not Erik. Peter Åberg, you probably heard of him too.
Is he the guy who juggles rings?
He does a lot of rings, but he used to do these tubes that were making sound.
Oh yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah, you should go and Google or like check on YouTube.
We'll probably have the link.
Peter Åberg. Yeah, we can put link to some of his stuff. He does really brilliant stuff, but he's also he's in kind of the world elite in blind multi-cubing. So he basically solves 12 Rubik's Cubes blindfolded. He's absolutely absurd at these things. And the funny thing is, and this is kind of a little bit of kind of tradition in contemporary circus in one sense, he uses this performatively. Like this is part of a lot of things he does for shows.
Yeah.
And this is a kind of thing that like, if Peter isn't in that show, you can't have like that show doesn't exist. It's based on him as a person.
Yeah.
And I feel that is something that I find very interesting with circus, that it becomes very kind of artist driven. So it's hard for a choreographer to just like, you can't just grab a body that will do a bunch of things. Like, I mean, of course, stuff like Cirque du Soleil, there they will have to do more of that kind of things because the shows are so large and so on.
I think a lot of the European circus thing is a reactionary trend towards the Cirque du Soleilification.
For sure. Yeah, for sure.
So it's kind of interesting, like for those of you who don't know the history of Cirque du Soleil, who biggest circus company in the world, possibly that has ever been.
Yeah, for sure.
But they started off as like hippie street performers on stilts with Guy Lalibert, who's the founder. And then they started making shows, and their whole thing was, we're just going to make shows with nice costumes. Interesting at the time. If you get their older shows, they're very interesting because they're done on big top format. No animals. That was the thing. No animals, just humans doing cool stuff. Presented semi-spectacle style, but not too bad. But then they kept getting bigger and bigger and popular because they were really good at the time. I really liked the older Cirque stuff. But they got bigger and bigger, and the shows just got bigger casts, bigger stages, to the point where like they became the McDonald's of circus, is the way people describe it, or Coca-Cola, just huge. But then the shows became less and less personal after they got rid of Franco Dragone. The shows became, the cast needed to be replaceable because they would, instead of having a show that might run for 2-3 years with the same cast, the show would be booked for 10-15 years in advance. So people, 15 years for an acrobatic career is quite hard on the body. So they needed the shows to be interchangeable, the performers interchangeable. So you'd have people coming in on the show, you have troops coming in and out of the shows. So it became, in Europe, you'd see the opposite was happening, where costumes were getting simpler, stages were becoming, here's a pile of paper on the ground. Lighting got simpler, music got removed, sometimes just atmospheric noises, and people were like deconstructing circus to the point of like, what do I have to do? What makes circus circus, and then what makes my show interesting, and what makes my show not generic, or not, what makes me not generic or replaceable. So now you're seeing all these trends that were coming out of this, coming from France initially was the kind of like thing, because the French,
I think like France, like of course had a large
collective AOC and
or chaos and stuff like. But I think it's like nowadays I think there's also kind of a large push happening from Scandinavia, like around University of Dance and Circus, and Finland has an enormous scene, and like
they got some ridiculously good jugglers there.
Like it's for example, also now there's been like a lot of like a kind of circus has entered academia, kind of like in the University of Dance and Circus, of course. Like now there's an actual, like what I did was a bachelor's degree in circus arts, and that exists
as well.
That exists now at several places, which means that there needs to start existing criteria, and there is some stuff that like I think is really good about that, and like it, of course, like as soon as things are kind of in those kind of official boxes, it means that you can like actually create like specific funding grants for those things and so on, and you can kind of like structure it and make it more into a high art essentially. But at the same time, like what kind of gets to me a little bit sometimes is like at the same time people are then, when creating these academic criteria, they're trying to create like this like
categorization
and like artistic research, for example, which I think is a really good idea in theory and halfways in practice. Like because like with artistic research, they essentially mean like finding a method of not only creating material based on certain methodologies or principles, but also kind of documentation and so on. But I feel it becomes a bit like backwards logic on it, because in the end you can end up doing anything, and then you just write something and you kind of connect the dots and say, okay, this is what I did. While artistic process is very often very, very much of a messy thing, where you go through so many stages which like don't really do anything, and you scrap everything and then you restart, and then and then like you kind of re-rationalize it as you go backwards. And it's not always like that it's just like one step of criticism that I sometimes can find with that. And of course it's there, I feel that it's also kind of going through the same stages as kind of dance did much further back, with like, okay, so we've done all the steps, we've done all the styles, like what can we do? And you deconstruct dance until you have like non-dance, until you have all these things. And that's also done a lot in circus. Remove the tricks, stop juggling with balls, pretend you juggle nothing, etc. And the thing is, like, some people are like, oh, these things are bad. And I don't really think it's bad. I just think it needs to be contextualized in an interesting sense. And like, speaking of juggling and juggling with no balls, actually, I saw a work in progress presentation of Wes Beaton. He did for the show that's called.
If you don't know who Wes Beaton is, he's a machine in human form, both in terms of like creating new juggling things that just have never been done before, and as well as being like just a mega beast at numbers. Like he's one of the top like numbers juggling, is like the amount of objects you can have in the air at once.
Yeah, the funny part is like the two people that are the most in the circus hall in Stockholm is basically me and Wes. So he like either I leave, like usually I leave before him because he just has infinite energy somehow. But what I was saying, like he was doing a presentation where he essentially was like, he was doing loads of juggling with like a million different various objects, and it was really interesting and conceptual. But then like he ends up doing this very long sequence, I think like lasts like 7 minutes or something, where he literally just waves his arms back and forth in a very kind of like very rapid motion with like extremely repetitive movements. But because he has juggled for all this time, and you've seen his hands move in these ways already, it suddenly has a meaning. Like it suddenly was like the coolest thing of the show. Like just seeing his hands just waving back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and it went on for a long time, and it was really hypnotic. While if he just went out on the stage and just did that, I would be like, okay, and he's just standing there waving his hands. So being able to contextualize these things, I think, is really kind of the way to actually make an artistic proposition and something that is watchable on stage, because of course you can create something that you feel is very interesting as a performer, which is hard for an audience to, it's hard to bring the audience with you into whatever process you feel you're in when you're on stage. And that can create kind of a discrepancy for me sometimes, though.
Yeah, the idea of personal process versus like, I've gone through a process and I've come up with this.
Yeah.
Versus like, well, what is your process, or like what am I looking at? It's
yeah,
like,
exactly.
For me, it's really special, unique, and never been done before. For the audience, it's like, yeah, you kind of rolled around on, I don't know, rolled around some paint, and then
yeah, that's it.
Yeah. So let's wrap this up. But I have a question, and then I have got an answer for my one as well. What is the strangest circus performance you've seen?
Strangest circus performance I've seen. I need to think. I mean, I've seen a lot of, like, I think the weirdest shit must be like shorter presentations, either in school when people were really experimental or stuff like that. But I'll see if I can find something that is just super far out. But the thing is it good or not? I think I've seen a lot of things.
That's strange. Personal strangeness. Not like it's strange for this academic reason. Just
what
fucking
is the
weird.
Weirdest shit? You answer first, so I can try to think.
I think I'm just going to annihilate anything you say with this one. So I was at the European Juggling Convention in Brunico in Italy, I don't know, 3-4 years ago. And it's a Renegade show. So Renegade show is an open stage for anyone who wants to come up and do. It's generally geared towards like non-acts, like interesting tricks, weird stuff. Anyway, weird stuff is the thing. So one girl came up and set up a blender. And she had a power cable, had her own very thing. And she brought it to kind of do a bit of a dance, strip down to her underwear. And then she proceeded to blend eggs, milk, and was it cat food? And cat food into this blender. And then then kept her dancing going, and then just poured it kind of all over herself and spent the next 5 minutes smearing it into herself.
Oh God, yeah. Sounds like contemporary dance.
It was very contemptible. Contemporary.
Contemptible dance.
But,
yeah, I'm not a hater of contemporary dance, just, I've just...
Yeah.
Yeah, I have... Let me now think, because I can't think of this... No, not that. Fuck, I can't really think of anything that's like super duper weird.
Next time we approach this topic.
Yeah, I can try to actually think of something, because I mean, I've seen a lot of far out shit, but well, I can mention one that was absolutely horrendous. And that was someone just literally rolling a stone around a room for 45 minutes without doing absolutely anything whatsoever except rolling the stone around the room for 45 minutes. It was very process oriented, but I was
a very interesting stone.
No, it was just a stone.
Yeah.
And that was where I would ask the question: if this person would have done this in the basement, I would assume she had been equally process oriented. But me as an audience, I was just like, I want to leave right now.
Yeah, one of these shows. Right, so we're going to wrap it up there. We hope you enjoyed some insights into the circus hobo life. If you like this topic, let us know and we can do another episode. I'm sure we can fill a few of them with our circus adventures.
Yeah, exactly.
Other than that, if you're interested in asking us some questions, you can use the contact form on the website, handstandfactory.com. Topic podcast questions. Alternatively, you can find us on social media, Handstand Factory, at Mikael Balancing, or at Emmet Lewis. If you're interested in learning to handstand, which could potentially lead to the circus hobo life, you can always get our courses at handstandfactory.com. Other than that, look forward to the next episodes, and thanks for listening.